Chevron South Africa. Well, we now turn our attention from fuels and refineries and all things oil to cybercrime. And in studio, I'm joined by Candice Sutherland, Business Development Consultant at SHA Specialist Underwriters, or SHA.
SHA.
There we go. Well, let's take a look at the overall cybercrime environment first of all, Candice, before we take a look at the insights that you've highlighted in this recent report.
Sure. So what the Semantic report has rated us is as third in the world in terms of cybercrime. 2014's loss figures were 5.8 billion rand just in South Africa. And we are looking at 1 million victims a day, which equates to 14 victims per second in South Africa, which is crazy, right?
No
crazy.
ways. 14 per second? Well, how
14
are these people actually being victimized
Various
on cybercrime?
ways. 84% of South African adults were a victim of cybercrime last year. And it could be somebody intercepting your data, someone trying to impersonate you, opening a telecom account on your name, someone stealing funds from your account. There's so many various ways that cyber criminals are targeting South Africans that it's just 14 per second. Crazy.
That's a crazy number, and one that I clearly was not anticipating to hear. But are there solutions that businesses can implement before we look at the individuals?
Definitely. The number one way to safeguard yourself is a cyber insurance policy. But let's go back to basics. If you have your server and your password is admin, or the default password, and it happens all the time, you think it's such a logical thing to change, but people don't. So there are IT professionals running servers with default passwords. So anyone can just guess that password. It's important to have antivirus. It's important to update that and keep it constantly running. And it's important that if your company has a BYOD policy, a bring your own device policy, that those devices have antivirus on. You can remote wipe it if your laptop gets stolen from your car, or you leave your cell phone on the Gautrain, that whoever picks up that device cannot get into all of your information.
Exactly, because there's obviously a lot of risk with that company information being leaked. Tell us about the insurance aspect of things. I don't think that this is something familiar to the South African market.
Yes, it's a very new concept in South Africa. As with cybercrime, ask the average man on the street about cybercrime and they would say, not a big deal for us, but third in the world, right? So a cyber insurance policy should be two parts of cover, first party and third party cover. So you definitely need to speak to a broker, a reputable broker, and find out what the options are for you as a company.
Just on these particular options, I want us to delve into them. Look,
sure.
Maybe use us as an example. We are a media company. We do have access to, certain policies, well, not me in particular, but certain important elements here. Does it depend on the particular sector that you're in? Because I'm sure maybe financial services might be different to engineering and even health from that perspective.
Well, according to that same Semantic report, the number one person hacked in any organization is the PA, and second is any person in media. So second highest rated on the list.
Sure.
The very lowest is research and development. And the reason is people will try and steal your intellectual property, but say I steal the secret recipe of Coke, what am I really going to do with it, right? So in terms of the insurance option, yes, some industries are way more at risk than others, but every company is at risk. And it's generally the SME, the small company, that is more at risk than the massive corporation. And the reason is they are soft targets. So they don't have the massive IT infrastructure and servers and firewalls and all that sort of thing. They would use Dropbox as the entire server.
Exactly.
So they are definitely more of the target. But there is an insurance policy, and at SHA we do provide that, which would safeguard you in the event of a cyber attack.
How competitive is the landscape, and maybe from a pricing perspective when it comes to this kind of insurance cover? Because as you mentioned, for the SME, they're guarding every cent that they can collect very closely.
Exactly, and that's the reality of South Africa. Whether you are a massive corporation, price is always a concern. So I know that there are 3 companies in South Africa that are selling cyber insurance, SHA being one of them. And realistically, it is not an expensive cover. When POPI comes into place and that 10 million rand fine is issued, then you would need to make provisions for that. But right now it's not necessary because there isn't an information regulator. But the cover is not expensive. So do an exploratory purchase and say, I want a 2 million, 5 million, 10 limit, 10 million rand limit. Your broker would advise you on a suitable limit for your specific company, but just start looking at it and building it into the budget.
And I guess the difficult part also comes in placing a value on that intellectual information that might be lost. If it's the Coke recipe, well, that's a huge amount. And if you're an SME trying to develop something else, placing a value on that intellectual property must be quite difficult.
It's actually not. Placing a value on that is not difficult. What's difficult and impossible to quantify is reputational damage. because how do you put a price on that? You can say exactly how many records you store, how many clients you've dealt with, how many policies you've sold, kind of thing, and we can quantify that. But your reputation, invaluable.
Exactly. When we take a look at the landscape regarding cybercrime and cybercrime insurance, if I can refer to it as such,
sure.
How does South Africa compare to its peers internationally?
We're definitely a couple of steps behind. I mean, the UK Data Act has been in place for quite a while. POPI was written around the UK Data Act, which is fantastic, but it's not in place just yet. We are definitely catching up, you know, especially in comparison to other African countries. But, you know, compared to Australia, America, UK, we're a couple of steps behind.
Quite a way to go.
Yes.
Candice, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us a realistic outlook as to how serious cybercrime is in South Africa.
Thank you.
Well, that was Candice Sutherland, who is the business development consultant at SHA Specialist Underwriters, discussing there the importance of cybercrime in